wanted to make sure you, oh yeah, you got the recording, good.
Yep.
I had a note here to remind you.
Mhm.
I didn't send out an agenda, but just real quick, what I thought we could do is just do the principal updates. And then if I could just take maybe 2 minutes, just a couple of things, and then we'll switch over. And I was thinking that, John, if you're going to talk about, and welcome, thank you for agreeing to come,
Sure.
about, you know, some of the more specific threats that we're seeing in social media and things like that. Would it make sense for you to talk about those first? And then Steve, you would be able to kind of give us the parents and folks an overview of maybe ways that they could circumvent or protect the kids from that. Or does that make sense, that order?
To me, it does. I mean, as long as John's okay with it, you know, that works for me.
Is that all right with you, John?
Sure. I'll let
Right.
Corbin kind of tee me up and introduce me.
Yep.
No worries.
Absolutely.
I can introduce them after I do the couple of announcements there.
Yeah.
Corbin, after you do your updates. So I don't,
Sure. I'll get right into it if you're ready to go.
let's see what we got, how many we got online. This way too, if there's some stragglers, they won't miss the bulk of the
Right.
the other
Yeah,
piece.
there's some, I have my window open. I'm kind of admitting people as they pop up here.
As we go. Yeah, I know now with the snow day, I wonder if we might have
No,
some.
not a snow day.
Not a snow day, a 2-hour delay. I just read the email. I literally just read the email and I still said those words. We can only hope. I get to sleep in nonetheless, so
Yeah.
no commuting.
Okay. So I'll continue to admit people as they pop in here, but I don't have a whole lot. You know, we've been off for a while, so there hasn't been a whole lot new going on since the last time we met. We had a nice lead into break. I guess the big things going on in the building were some of our service projects, our Operation Giving Tree that the student council leads, and they, as always, had an abundance of gifts that were purchased and were donated by families, and they delivered those over to the Salvation Army that week before Christmas. So as always, very nice response from our families and our students as well. So we're very pleased with that. We also had one of our after school groups called Girls in Charge, which is one of our groups that's led by the YWCA. They come in and sponsor some groups. And one of those groups is the Girls in Charge. They made some nice mason jar snowmen and then gave them as gifts to some folks in Berks County Retirement Home, I believe, in Berks County as some gifts. So a lot of students have been active prior to break, kind of in the giving spirit, and we're very pleased with that. You know, since return this week, it's all about COVID and kind of with some of the revised guidelines, and it means that quarantine times are shortened, but there's more folks who are being quarantined because, you know, for one, this Omicron variant spreads more easily, it seems like, is more contagious, but also, you know, some of the new regulations mean that they come to the nurse's office and have any symptom at all, they're going to be sent home. So we've been sending home a lot of students and a lot of teachers, and a lot of teachers have been kind of scrambling to cover for one another. We always pick up each other very nicely at the middle school, but you know, that is really the main catalyst for tomorrow's remote learning day. The secondary factor is the forecast that's there, but as I told my staff after school today, I feel that even if we didn't have a forecast of some iffy weather overnight, we'd still be doing the remote day, because over the course of this week, Monday through Friday, the numbers have been climbing steadily. We were, I think, around 200 or so students out today in the middle school. The high school's been probably close to double that. So, you know, we anticipated that. The health officials and the experts who know a bit more about this had anticipated that after after the holidays, there would be a couple week spike of things. And they also are predicting that as we move forward, they anticipate we'll start to see a steady decline and then eventually a leveling off of some of that. So we'll see what tomorrow brings. Tomorrow is a 2-hour delay schedule at the secondary level. That's high school and middle school. All athletic programs and other extracurricular activities are still on as planned after school tomorrow and or evening, if there's something going on there. For the middle school, it will still be a day 6. I did neglect to put that in my email earlier today to families, but it is still a day 6. And it's a remote learning day. So it's not a flexible instructional day. It's not an asynchronous day. Teachers will be ready to teach at their assigned time for every given class period in our 2-hour delay. That schedule was included in my email today. So 9:30 period 1 begins. The expectation is the students are logged into their first period class at 9:30. Classes are shorter. They're a half hour. That does not mean the teachers are going to be teaching for that full half hour. What you'll likely see is the teachers will kind of meet the students, greet the students, and introduce a lesson to them. And then there'll be some time for the students to, if there is an assignment for the students to work on that activity, the teacher will remain accessible to them, but may take their face off the screen and stop teaching to them. But they'll be there if the student should have questions during the length of that period. And then when that period ends, the teacher will dismiss them and they're on to period 2 and then period 3 and 4 and so forth. When their lunch period comes around, they can have lunch or just take a break for that half hour, whatever it may be. So we'll see how it goes. We've never quite done it like this before, but we'll see how it goes tomorrow and be flexible as always with what's happening. So that's really it from my end.
All right, thank you so much.
Sure.
Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome back. Just a couple of things. One, we had a really busy December. We were able to kick off the gingerbread house decorating event, and we had a lot of fun, a lot of learnings. We'll take some notes there and things that we can do to make us that maybe a little bit more or less chaotic. There was a little craziness there. It actually went faster than we thought. So we had a lot of time on our hands, and you know what happens when you have a lot of time on your hands with the kids. But we had a good time. There was a little bit of money that we were able to make thanks to a lot of generous donations. So some of the money for the entry fee, and Jen can give us an update on the budget here in a second. And as well as the bundt cake event for the faculty and staff. And just a shout out to Kim and the folks that helped Kim organize and run that. That was really a lovely event. Real quick note here, Kim, I just wanted to know if we needed to send a thank you note out to there was an individual parent who donated the cakes.
Parents that donated are in our meeting tonight, the Gordons. And,
All right.
And I believe, Casey, did you guys get a thank you note? You should have at this point.
Yes, we did.
Yes,
Thank
good.
you. Yep.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
That was really kind, and
Awesome.
it was well attended. There was very little leftovers, so they really enjoyed that. We have upcoming, just a quick note here, the Scholastic Book Fair. So we'll be hosting the Scholastic Book Fair. It's February 18th through 28th. I don't know if we're going to be doing all of those days. We'll be in the library. And any of the parents online, or if you're in connection with other parents, you do have to have clearances for this event. But we could use some help in supporting that event, and it's pretty minor. There'll be a schedule, and the language arts classes will come in at various times. You'll know the schedules, and it's a pretty simple thing. But we do need, it's during the weekdays, and we'll need a few parent volunteers to help us with that because many of the board members, work and things, so it's hard to get in. So maybe we can have some help there. Just reach out to me and let me know if you're interested, and I'll link you up with what we need help on there. We have a couple things we're thinking about. We're trying to twist Corbin's arm around maybe a dance for the kids in the spring. I know with COVID numbers being really high, it's, we'll have to kind of tiptoe through the tulips and try to make that happen if we can, but we certainly haven't completely rolled it out yet. So we're trying to be creative, even if we have to wait till the weather gets a little bit nicer and try to do another outdoor thing for the kids. We'll have something else coming up, and certainly the end of the year barbecues and events for both the faculty and the students coming up. So any other ideas you have, we're only halfway through, let us know and we'll certainly have those happen. No, before we switch gears here, Jen, if you wanted to give any quick update on any of the budgeting or any things we need to be approved, any other board members announcements before we switch over.
I can just give a quick on the budget. Well, the account itself, we have $4,238.72. We still have 2 of our mini grants outstanding to be paid out. Still waiting for people to submit receipts. Megan helped me out today and signed a check for Laura Frank. She got her receipts in for the birthday club. So we were able to write her a check. Megan, were you able to put it in her mailbox? Or is it still in our mailbox?
In the PTA mailbox.
Okay. All right. So we'll just have to make sure it gets to, I don't know if Laura has a mailbox. I think
She
I
does. She does. I can help with that.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Kim.
It's not hard to transfer mailboxes. There. Well, I won't be there tomorrow. So it'll be next week before I can do it because we're not on site tomorrow. Okay. Okay. Thanks.
That's fine.
Okay.
And then I have the gingerbread final report for the monies that it brought in. And I think our final profit was $270. So we had the gingerbreads donated and we had some of the snacks donated. So our costs were the prizes, the gift certificates for the winners and pretzels. So that our net profit was $270.
That's great. Yeah, we didn't ask for family donations on this event because we just felt like we were asking for a whole lot there. But we are kind of depleted. So the next event we'll reach out to the parents again to help us with some of the snacks and things like that if we need it, some of the drinks, whatnot. We kind of try to deplete our stores there. And so we're getting fairly empty, I think. So we might need to replenish a little bit of that for the next event. But any other announcements before we switch over to our speakers? All right, brilliant. Well, we're really fortunate. We've been trying to schedule this now for a few months. We have both John, apologies if I mess this up, is it Metzger?
Metzger.
Metzger, who's
Yes.
our school police chief for all of the school district here today, as well as Steve Pressman. I don't know if Steve, you want to wave your hand there, who's the president and chief technology officer at Alpine Cyber Solutions. And so we've had it really timely as well, a lot of issues with a variety of things going on and things like TikTok and other things on social media that are, hitting some of the schools. And we thought it would be really important, not only, as parents, but to hear about what's going on, because sometimes we're not in tune with the current social media things, but also maybe give us some ideas and information on how we might be able to protect our kids a little bit better. So we'll start off with John, talk a little bit about what's going on there, and then we'll switch over to Steve, if that makes sense there.
And Catherine, if I can kind of lead into John a little bit here and maybe kind of drive what John's going to talk about. We've seen obviously with the increase in student accessibility to cell phones, it seems like almost not all, but almost every student these days has a cell phone in the middle school, and they spend a lot of time on them, and they spend much of that time on social media platforms, whether it be Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok, whatever it may be. And oftentimes the choices they make when on those platforms aren't the best choices. And there's a multitude of reasons for that. One, their age, but multitude of reasons. So what ends up happening sometimes is that we get reports from students, reports from parents about, here's what was posted on Snapchat, here's what was posted on Instagram. Sometimes they say, well, it's about my son or about my daughter, and what are you going to do about it? And it's frustrating at times when there are times that we can't, as a school, do anything about it, even if we know who the people are that are involved. But a lot of times, we've seen an increase, for example, in these Instagram accounts that have been opened, and they're open under pseudonyms or aliases. The Instagram account.
I don't know, maybe we can, I'm sorry to interrupt there, Corbin. Maybe if everybody else can go on mute. We just got a lot of background feed, at least I'm getting it.
I can help with that too, I think. Hold on. That help?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, so we're finding that it gets frustrating for parents, and understandably so, when they'll see or hear that their child is kind of being named in some phony Instagram account that has O&J attached to it, like O&J. I'll give a make-believe example. O&J's dumbest kids, something like OJR Middle School dumbest kids. And then they'll have pictures of other students on there, maybe pictures that are taken in school without anybody recognizing or realizing it. And you find out, hey, my kid's on this Instagram account and he's being targeted. And what are you going to do about it? And our response a lot of times is, well, we don't even know who the account belongs to, and we can't find that out. So one of the things that I think John can speak to is kind of how our hands are tied when it comes to identifying the owners of these accounts. What are the obstacles that are in place for us as a school district? And where is that line between us being able to discipline a student for something they do at 10 o'clock at night on Instagram from their bed, versus something they do while on our network in school at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So there's a lot of ins and outs, and hopefully folks have come with questions on their mind. And John is our current chief of police at O&J, but in his previous life, he spent many years with the Pennsylvania State Police. So he's been around this at all levels beyond just our school. And I know Steve certainly has expertise in the tech world and can hopefully have some tips that parents can use to help safeguard their children and keep an eye on things and monitor what they're up to when they're online. Because the kids oftentimes are ahead of us. There's ways that they can hide these things. There are apps that are made that are used to hide conversations, photographs, things like that. So it can become a very tricky situation. So with that, John, I'll turn it over to you, or we can just ask people to, if they have questions, they can ask them. I don't know how we'll proceed with it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll touch briefly on a couple of the different topics that you mentioned, and then I'll open up to questions to see if specifically parents have concerns, because we have a few different things going on. One of the things that Corbin mentioned, that the anonymous Instagram account that posts, it has an OJR. There's a few of them out there, like OJR Fights, and where basically there's cyberbullying that takes place, or fake posts that appear to come from a student who didn't actually make it, but the person who's controlling this app takes a fake screenshot and posts it as if this person made a racially insensitive comment or a homophobic comment or something like that. Those accounts, the state police actually got search warrants and served them on Instagram, who is not the most law enforcement friendly social media company. They're very slow to respond, and they're very slow to shut down accounts. But a search warrant was actually done on those accounts, and there was an anonymizer program that they used, and they traced it back to a dummy account out of Mexico. So whoever set up at least two of those accounts had some savvy to them enough that it basically led to a dead end. So those accounts are still out there. We do not know who runs them. It's obviously somebody that has some knowledge of OJR students, or whether it's a past student who still has that active, we're not sure. So it's not very reassuring to parents, I know, to know that these things are out there and we're not sure who's running them. All we suggest anytime we get any of these complaints is to complain to Instagram, that you can file a complaint that, you know, this account is fake or it's being used to bully. And the more of those complaints that they get, sometimes that helps them get shut down. So basically our advice to people is tell your kids not to follow the account. The more followers and the more attention they get, I think the more life it gives them. So we tell people just block it, don't follow it. And if you do see something, then, you know, file a complaint to Instagram. Some of the other things we've seen, Corbin mentioned, you know, there's cyberbullying and sexting that has gone on in the middle school this year. People sending nude photos that then get forwarded further than what they intended. And also cyberbullying, which takes place. And again, we're limited in the school as a, you know, a police department or a principal. A lot of this behavior is taking place outside of the school, and it's really tough to police every single interaction on social media. Our police department is set up to enforce summary offenses only. We work more as a liaison with the local police departments when crimes are more serious. So we're there to enforce minor offenses like harassment, criminal mischief, traffic violations. More so, we're there for immediate response to emergencies and to have a presence in the school, and to develop good relationships with students. So, you know, to see police as more normal interaction and to keep the students safe as opposed to, you know, viewing police as the enemy or a bad guy. So when there is cyberbullying or sexting, generally when the parents notify us or notify Mr. Stoltzfus, we're generally advising parents, if they feel that their child is a victim of a crime, that you report it to your local police department. Generally, these crimes are above a summary, you know, particularly when it comes to the sexting offenses. If you want it investigated as a crime, then we're recommending most of this activity is taking place outside of the school and report it to your local police department. Again, it takes time, you know, if for the district attorney to file charges in these cases, they want a search warrant done because they want to know all of the communication that took place. They want to verify who the owner is of that cell phone or of that social media account is. So they want a search warrant served on that social media company or on that cell phone provider, which sometimes takes months to get the results back from. So it's not an immediate resolution to the situation that's going on, but sometimes having a police officer call a parent of another student and say, hey, you know, we've been advised and we're starting an investigation that your son or daughter may have sent this cyberbullying text or forwarded a naked picture of somebody without their permission. Sometimes that's enough to end the behavior. So that's another limitation that we face for some of the cyberbullying and sexting, which is probably the most common thing that we see in the middle school age. The last thing that I'll touch on briefly is, I'm sure you're aware of some of the national TikTok threats against schools that have garnered a lot of attention recently, particularly on the one date in December when there was a national threat, basically a generalized threat against schools. When we see those things, I can run you through kind of what our process is. We do an assessment when we see something like that. And that particular threat was very generalized. What we look for is something to lend specificity to our area or our specific school district or a student from our school. That's what we look for when we have school threats. we look for, there's different things we can look for in the post: timeliness, specificity, things like that. None of that was present in these threats. It was a generalized national threat across the country, which then led to some specific threats at different school districts in the area and in the country, none of which were close to O&J Roberts or anywhere related to O&J Roberts, which was reassuring to us. But we still took extra steps of having extra visibility than even what we normally do, and having our partners from local police departments and the state police a little extra visibility at drop off and pick up, and throughout the day some more school visits and things like that. So that's some of the different topics that we deal with social media. And I'm certainly open to answer any questions, that more specific things that anybody may have, or generally. I'm not the most tech savvy guy in the world, but luckily we have someone else here who can address some of those technical.
Yeah, I can help out if those questions go that way
Thanks,
for you.
So parents, we'll open the floor for you to unmute yourselves and ask any questions that you might have. I assume everyone's able to unmute themselves if they have a question. I know Steve just did and John did, so I'm assuming everyone else can unmute themselves as they need to. And we'll just have kind of an open Q&A here if you have specific questions about social media or anything else. Some of these.
I have a quick question here, Corbin.
Yeah.
I mean, not to put a burden back on the school, you got enough to do, but I'm sure that many of the parents are like me. I mean, I'm probably not even aware when some of these, like the nationwide threats and things like that, are happening. Sometimes you'll see something on like a Today Show or whatever, but is there are you in your weekly memo or something able to kind of highlight anything that might be out there, or
Well,
are we worried about advertising it for the kids who haven't seen it? Or
oh my God, no. I mean, listen, I will tell you this: the kids know about it before we do. We usually find out about it because the school's buzzing and conversations are buzzing and kids are buzzing about it. The one that Chief Metzger referred to as far as the nationwide TikTok threat, I personally, now I think our department and our central administration knew about it prior, but I personally found out about it because parents started to call me and say, my child just texted me, said they want to get picked up because they heard there's a threat. And I said, well, what are we talking about here? And then I kind of was able to inform myself. So oftentimes the students know about it before us.
yeah.
And then typically for something like that, it's more broad and doesn't name a specific. If there were something that were directed at the middle school, the communication would come from me. Otherwise, if it's something broader, it typically will come from either Dr. Stout, the superintendent, or from Dr. Marchini, the pupil services director. I believe Dr. Stout sent something out about this last one, and also to alert families that they may see an increased, police presence and when they show up to school, and not to be alarmed when you see a state trooper or vehicle parked in front of the middle school and the high school. That's just part of being a little bit more visible. So there's typically communications that will go out. As far as who that comes from, it depends on whether it's specific to a school and or the degree of the threat. If it's something that is more spread throughout the district already, and we need to kind of get everyone.
We hear stuff from our kids. Are you wanting us to contact you to let you know we're hearing
Well,
stuff?
and I would say yes. I mean, anytime a student says something to you that sounds a bit off or alarming, certainly let us know. Sometimes we might already know about it, and sometimes not. But absolutely, we certainly view this as a partnership. I mean, I don't have children. I have a middle school age child, but he doesn't have TikTok or Snapchat or Instagram account. So, I'm not always aware and in tune with what's going on in those sites. So we rely on parents and students to communicate that with us. So absolutely.
One thing I would encourage, and hopefully everyone here is aware of Safe to Say, but there is a Safe to Say app, phone number, and website, which is highly effective. So if you become aware of something, whether it's there's a lot of topics that Safe to Say categorizes the information that they receive. Basically, there are analysts in Harrisburg employed by the Safe to Say program who have a contact with every single school and every school district in the entire state of Pennsylvania. And there's a list of police contacts and school administrators that are associated with every single school and every single school district in the state. So if you are aware of cyberbullying, a threat to another child, or a threat to commit violence in a school, if you're aware of a student who may harm themselves, these are all things that you can report to Safe to Say, and you can do it with your name associated with it, or you can do it anonymously. But it's a very effective program, and it's 24 hours a day. So if it happens, if we get the information during the school day, then either Mr. Stoltzfus or a counselor is reaching out to that student and that parent and saying, hey, somebody's concerned that you may harm yourself, or that you're depressed, or that you have a gun and you're posting pictures of yourself on social media. So if it happens during the day, we address it right at that time. If it happens after hours and it's an emergency, then we can call the local police to reach out to that, to respond to that residence and address it that night. And we'll be in communication with them and determine if it's something that we need to take action on or not. Or if it's something that's more, along the lines of a cyberbullying incident or something like that, then it'll be held until the next school day and we can address it in school. So that's something that we definitely, you ask about sharing that information that you hear, absolutely share it with us. And we can prioritize it. If it's, if you're the fifth person that reported the same information, that's okay. It's labeled as a duplicate tip, and it's not any extra work on us. So if you become aware of that information, you can share it, and your students all get the training. Your children all get the training in school, and they're aware of it also.
That's great.
Any other questions from any parents? We'll go any direction you want to go with the conversation. Otherwise, we'll kind of lead into Steve here and let him talk about what can we do as parents. It seems like we're fighting a losing battle oftentimes with social media and with how active our kids are on there. And I don't know if there's an answer, but there are certainly some tools out there that can allow you to be a little bit more in tune with what your kids are up to. So Steve, I'll turn it over, and folks, again, if questions come to mind as you're hearing things, just chime in right away. Unmute yourself and chime in. We'll get to those questions immediately.
Yeah, Corbin, Steve needs you to let him share a few slides, I think.
Oh,
he had a few
okay, sure
slides.
thing. Let me.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Thank
No
you.
problem. Let me do this. Okay, you should be good now. Yep, we got
Can you
it.
see that? All right. So the slides I've put together, my world is more in the security of data, of things, of networks and those sorts of things. I am also a parent of a middle school student, and I'll go to my glamour slide for that. My son Jacob is in 8th grade, and I have a vested interest in in him and in the school and in the community and everything else. So the slides that I've got here, I'd like to make available for everybody after this. There's content in here that really isn't germane to the topic that we're talking about, but it's just general internet safety and computer safety that I think it's important for people to hear. But I do have a couple that I want to point out that are on this topic that we're talking about here, and to help do what we can to increase our own awareness, to practice safe computing, and to make it so that our kids make it a reflex, so that they don't have to think about it. We have to think about all of our actions. The next generation coming up. And I'm seeing it in my youngest of employees who I hire. They come in with already a base level of competence in how to use systems and how to use the internet and how to navigate the world that we just don't have as parents and as the old folks that we are. So please take this and take everything in there as with a grain of salt and with the advice it's intended to be, and ask questions, because that's the only way you're going to get better. And don't, I know that it can often be difficult to express yourself and to feel like you're the last one to know something or you're behind. But the fact of the matter is, we're all behind what our kids know. Like Chief said, and Mr. Stoltzfus said that it's our responsibility to do what we can, but they're always going to be ahead of us. So that said, again, I've got some slides here that are about internet safety, that are about computer safety in general, and there are things that I, as a security professional, want everybody to take away from this. So I'll slow down at that point. Being on the internet is natively, just right out of the bag, is a risky endeavor. You're connecting your home with other people's homes in a meaningful way. The only real way to be safe is to not have things connected to anything else, and it's an unfortunate reality. I don't advocate for that. I advocate for being safe while staying connected, but it is a tough thing to do. There are some resources here, and I did, thank you to Chief Metzger. I added the Safe to Say PA website on here for those who didn't have it. I hadn't heard of it. I wasn't, I guess, again, not engaged enough, and that's the cardinal sin. Safer Internet Day 2022. This is an annual event, and there are resources available on saferinternetday.org that people can use and consume to just understand the latest and what's going on. And in as much as a security person telling you what the best things to do are, you can learn a thing or two. Another one, and again, this, unfortunately, these slides started as an elementary school presentation, so some of the information also is geared towards the younger kids, but it still applies. It doesn't change. Google released an online web app called Interland, and it gamifies how to behave online, how to behave in a connected world. And it engages. It's a little mini 3D virtual world that kids can go into, and gives them simple lessons about things that don't disappear ever, and don't do this and don't click that. And it's again a little simplistic, intended for a younger crew than what we've got. But those of you with younger kids, it still could be a good activity for you to look at. And then there are tons of resources out there. It's tough to know what's real and what's safe and what's not. But in this realm, most of what you see is either obviously right or obviously wrong. The moral of all of these stories is increasing awareness of what your kids are doing, what they can do, what the platforms allow them to do, the exposures that they have just by owning the app and having an account. I went through this myself just in the last month as a security professional. My son, we gave him a VR Oculus Quest for Christmas. And in order to log into it, you needed a Facebook account. And he took it upon himself to go sign up for a Facebook account. Now, I'm lucky. I've got a good kid who is very open and tells me everything, which, right, I'm sure he doesn't. But I like to believe it. I like to delude myself into believing that. He told me right away that he did it. And I keep an eye on his account. It's not something that he friends people or anything like that, but just in case, I keep an eye on it. I have his account on my phone as well. So check out Connect Safely. It's got information specifically about cyberbullying, sexting, and other random topics like password changing and preventing the embarrassment to kids at that age that could come from getting your account compromised, hacked by somebody else in their age group. It could be damaging to them as well. Again, this is getting into some of the general tips, and I'll go through it rather quickly. Preventing yourself from getting attacked. Make sure you keep your browser updated. If you use Chrome or a Chrome derivative or Firefox, in the upper right corner, you're going to see an update button. if it's required. If you have an update that you haven't done, click it, do it, and you can prevent a lot of problems. You can get the latest code. I don't recommend anybody continuing to use Internet Explorer. I don't recommend Safari. I know a lot of people do. I don't. I don't recommend Edge, the Microsoft browser. I just, and it's just anecdotal, I don't like them as much as I like the security and the leading edge, privacy protections that you get in especially Firefox, but also Chrome. I'm a Chrome user, even though I respect Firefox a little bit more. Ad blocking to prevent, you have kids who are of an age who are going to likely get your computer infected with things by installing software they shouldn't and going places that they shouldn't. Keep an eye on that. Keep your anti-malware software up to date. Keep your browser up to date. If you see bad behavior, don't be afraid to take action and blow it up. Reinstall your operating system. Okay, talk to a security professional. Get it cleaned in some way, but don't just live with the fact that it suddenly got real slow, because you could have spyware on your machine. You could be part of a botnet that's attacking somewhere else on the internet. And again, I apologize. I'm going deeper into this than I wanted to, given the topic here. But just patch your stuff and stay up to date, please. Try to teach your kids good habits, like sticking to the rivers and lakes you're used to. Try to go to websites that you know. If your kids are using resources at school, they can use those resources at home. Just randomly Googling for information can often lead you down a bad path. And don't install a lot of extra add-ons that would show up in the upper corner of your browser. Here's an example. I made these before Christmas, and I know a lot of people use apps or add-ons for your browser that, like Rakuten and Honey something, and Honey is another one, that give you coupons and save you money on shopping. They also have access to do a lot of other stuff. So just be aware, go in with your eyes open. Okay, moving past that. This is a slide for you to read later. Don't reuse your passwords. Again, teach your kids not to reuse their passwords, please. Because again, getting your account taken by somebody else who's in your age group can be damaging to their online reputation, can be damaging to their personal reputation as well. Teaching kids good password health today is going to pay a lot of dividends in the future. In my family, we use an app called Dashlane that I strongly recommend. I mean, I recommend Dashlane, anything, LastPass, even the password safe that's within Chrome, the browser itself is good, but use a different password for every site, please. And if you have questions about that, we could totally talk about it, but I don't want to go down the rabbit hole. And if you're not sure, I would recommend everybody, when you get a moment, go to Have I Been Pwned, PWNED, that is not a typo, .com, and put in your email address, and you'll find out if you've been a part of any of the data breaches that have been made public and released to the news and into the world. You'll find out, like, hey, you were part of that LinkedIn breach that happened 2 years ago, and you haven't changed your LinkedIn password since then. So it's just, you're lucky at this point that nobody's gotten you. So I strongly recommend that. HaveIBeenPwned.com. Okay, now social media. So this is for adults as well as for kids. The privacy settings are something that is within your control. I am not going to tell you that social media is pure evil. I'm also not going to tell you it's pure good. Just like anything else, it's how it's used and how it's protected. So I strongly recommend that you look at the privacy settings in whatever social media apps that you use and your children use. Make sure that you understand and they understand who is allowed to see their posts and their friend lists. I think all of us at this point have received some kind of social media post from someone who claims to be someone you know, and it's obviously not. Well, it's obvious to us because we're a little older and a little bit more experienced, but it might not be obvious to a kid. And that's when your friends lists have gotten taken. Next thing you know, you've got you're receiving things that look real from people who are not the person who they say they are, because they're spoofed accounts. So the other thing that's very tough to teach a child and maybe harder to teach an adult is to cull your friends list. If you are not actively participating in conversations or have a real interest in talking with people, remove them from your friends list. In some circles that may be considered a terrible faux pas, but in reality, you're sharing personal information. Your kids are sharing personal information. Friendships at the age of 13 and 14 are, if it's anything like when I was 13 or 14, they last about as long as my sentence. So make sure that they're staying on top of that. You know, it's too many times I hear people talk about, I used to be friends with. Well, then why are you friends with them on Facebook? Or why are you friends with them on, or why do you follow them on Instagram? Links in everything, in all posts, and this is social media and beyond. Teaching sanity, or teaching people to mouse over a link and see that it's going where it says it's going is a key, because just because you click something that says it's going to take you to somewhere, one of those places that you're used to, doesn't mean that you're actually going there. So mouse over your links, or hover them, or hold your thumb on them in your phone, and it'll show you the address of where you're going to. And you can tell if you're going to a place that you intended to. So again, that's in emails, that's on websites, that's in social media. Oop, sorry. Yeah, there's a good lesson though. Forever is a very long time. That's, and it's hard to teach a 13 or 14-year-old what forever means, that when they put something on social media, it is there. And there is a right to be forgotten in Europe and in California and in New York, not in Pennsylvania. You can ask all you want, but they don't, you know, Facebook and the social media sites do not have to remove your data when you leave. So until that happens, until that becomes a worldwide standard, your forever is a very long time, and any picture you post will come back and haunt you. Sorry, going back, I accidentally clicked to get to that slide. The pictures that you share, they also contain what's called EXIF data. That contains the GPS coordinates of where the photo was taken. It also contains other information about that time of day and those sorts of things, and it's in data that you don't see. So if your kids are sharing things, it's sharing where they are. So be aware of that. There are ways to strip it. There are services out there you can upload your picture to first. It'll strip the EXIF data, and then you can go and post it. Again, a good thing to do as an adult or as a child. And finally, when you do get a friend request, make sure it makes sense. And again, very hard thing to teach a child, but if somebody is sending you something and you haven't heard from them in a very long time, or it's in a different tone than they usually send it, or if it's just out of the blue and too good to be true, then question it. Maybe reach out to that person via another channel. Send them a text message, give them a phone call. God forbid, drive to their house and see if they actually sent it to you. Because at that point, you have to doubt everything, because it might not be really the person. Gaming is another place where parenting comes up when you least expect it. There is software that kids, if you have a child who is a PC gamer, they're especially at a little bit of extra risk, because that gives them great power, but it also gives them the ability to download software that they might not be safe, and then they're not safe. So if you have anyone who plays Minecraft in your family, they have software called mods that give you really cool various new effects and whatever the developer wants it to do. You can have dinosaurs in the game, you can have all kinds of other things. That is software that is now running on your computer, and as a result, it can access the things that your software can access, like your camera, like your email. Like, it is in your world at that point. And I'm not saying don't use them, but there are trusted sources for mods. And again, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on what those trusted sources are, but I will say my son knows what they are, and he knows which ones they aren't. So have that conversation if you have a PC gamer in the house. Be aware that a lot of games now also have a social component, and I'm sure if anyone is in any of the, any kind of online multiplayer, there's often voice, there's often text that they can interact with one another. And again, from a safety standpoint, you want to understand who your kids' friends are. That is a social network at that point. You've got, without face or even with face communication occurring. Understand what it is that they're doing. Be aware that that is a vector that bad things can happen. Be aware too, there are parental controls in all of the gaming systems. Use them. I know for myself, my son plays a couple of different ones, but when he's on the PlayStation, I have the PlayStation app on my phone. When he launches his PS5, it tells me Jacob's just logged on. So I know that he's on the system, okay? And I am his friend. Become your child's friend in these things. And I know they're gonna hate you for it and all of that. And if you have a specific, if they have trouble with that, that's another, that's a parenting thing that we all have to deal with. But be their friend and be engaged, because those parental controls, if you just say, I don't want to approve the things that they do, it's a pain in the neck, they ask me all the time, I'm just going to make them the highest level of parental control. No, then you lose all visibility. So be in the platform, learn how the game works, learn how the platform works. This was more impactful back when I did this presentation in the elementary schools. And in the middle school, this is a kind of a ho-hum, but in case anyone's got a younger child, Fortnite, and by the way, pretty much all of the social media sites have a 13 plus terms of 13 plus in their terms of service. So most of the online games don't want to deal with any kind of young child issues. So that means they're mature, right? Because they're 13 and they can handle it. So, but anyway, just know that you're breaking the rules if you do sign them up for something that they're too young for. Okay. Another thing that as my generation doesn't comprehend is watching games on YouTube or Twitch. YouTube is very popular. Man, if you ever take the time to read the comments, and if your kids have the patience to scroll down a little bit, there is a lot of shade being thrown, a lot of trolls in those comments. And I don't know, that negativity really rubs me the wrong way. And I can't imagine my kid would be developing well if we didn't have conversations about it. Talk to him. That's the best thing to do there. You're not going to stop it. You're not going to stop them from going there. You're not going to stop them from seeing it. But if you talk about what comes from it, and where it comes from, and what really is happening there, then you're really setting them up for success. Twitch, on the other hand, I have massive hatred for Twitch. Twitch is live streaming of games. And as a result, you've got the ability to watch what people think in the moment that they thought it. And that's never good. That's never good. You can see what people are saying in the moment as the comment stream flies by. It is a very attractive place for bad actors, for people who want to do bad things. So if your kid is on Twitch, that's fine. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you shouldn't. Just be aware, be engaged, be involved, and have the conversation. Okay, I'm not going to read you this slide. This is just about making sure you understand when you click accept on things to use your Google account, that it means something to log into other sites with it. I'll let you read this. Like I said, I'll make this available for you. On mobile phones, the only thing I want you to come away with is I'm a huge fan of communication. I love that I can communicate with my child when I need to, but make sure that if you have an Android phone, you're installing apps that are trusted from the app stores. It used to be a much bigger deal. It's not as big of an issue anymore, but especially with the attractiveness of this app costs money over here and it's free over there. Well, there's a reason for that. There's malware likely in the one that doesn't come from the store. Lock them. Again, people stealing each other's phones and taking pictures of things, and just make sure that you secure the device. Use the biometrics, the thumbprint, the face. Use a PIN on your phones, on their phones, on their iPads, and all of that. Make sure that the screen automatically locks, because kids do put things down and walk away from them. Make sure that that is in your configuration. And when it comes to location sharing services, only share it with the people that you know. Review the list of who it's shared with your kids all the time. Yeah, do it once a month at least. And the other thing too, this is a new one. AirTags, the Apple. I wish I had mine on me. I have them. It's the location finder for your keys, right? There's a new trend in the world of people tossing them in someone's trunk, and now you can follow them where they've gone. It happened a few times that people got hit leaving a casino after a big win. They got followed home because of an AirTag, and there are some protections that'll pop up and say, hey, somebody else's AirTag is following you. But if you're not paying attention, it's a bad thing. And for kids, their location is private. So do your best to watch out for that. Okay, this is the big slide. So that makes me sound so out of touch and old, but distrust everything. You have to start from a position of distrust before you get to trust. It's unfortunate, but it's the world that we live in. If you read it online, that doesn't make it true. Validate that what you're seeing is really valid. Everything on the social media slide that we talked about, teach that to your kids. It's important that they remember, especially the part about everything being permanent. This is my comment from before. After they're 13, they're adults, so they're good. I know a lot of adults, by the way, who don't know how to navigate this minefield. Also teach them that etiquette. I know there's a lot of people in this world who would never say the things that they say online to someone's face. And if we teach that to our kids at a young age, I think we're going to end up with a much better generation than we might be trending towards right now. Try to think of an online interaction as the same as an in-person interaction. Bullies and trolls are not what we want in the next generation. Monitor. So if you were to say, well, I've got cyber nanny, or that used to be a bigger thing where, you know, my traffic at home is protected. My kids can't get to bad websites. They're so easy to get around. Change your DNS settings or connect to your cell phone instead. There are so many ways. That said, like T-Mobile has a good platform. If you're looking for something that you want to just be a first level of stopping folks from doing bad things, from going to bad sites, even on their cell phones, they have a parental control service, but please don't treat that as the end. Don't treat that as the only thing you need to do. You need to stay engaged. You need to be active. And again, that openness and sharing, and again, who am I to preach, but you know, it's important that you stay involved and be aware, especially when there are folks doing stupid things for attention online. Try to make sure your kid feels comfortable talking to you about it at all times. I think that was the most of what I had. Again, I want to make these available, Catherine. I don't know if there's a means by which we could do that. If we could post them somewhere, that would be great.
Yeah, I was going to ask Corbin. I mean, you know, we it would be really helpful if we're allowed to put this video. We put the videos of the meetings back up on the PTA website. Would it be okay to put the slides up there as well?
Yes.
So we'll
Yeah,
do
we
that.
can put the slides on the PTA website for sure.
Okay, so if you just want to send them to
Wonderful.
me, Steve, and then I can get those over to Karen, she'll get them up for us.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I'm just going to go through so they make it to the video in case somebody doesn't get the rest.
Yeah, this is really helpful. I didn't know about this. Have I been pawned? So I wrote that down. I'll have to check that out myself. But yeah,
I check myself from time to time too.
I do have a quick question for you, Steve.
Yeah.
Steve, I don't know the names.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Corbin.
No, go ahead, Kara. I'll wait.
Well, first of all, I've thankfully that I'm very grateful that I know Steve personally. He's actually saved my butt a couple times online on some of this stuff. So my question really is, you know, we're finding now as our kids are getting older, like Google, you know, sent us an email that said, hi, your child's turning 12 or 13 or whatever it was next week. And they will now be in complete control of their sites.
Mhm.
So obviously I'm going to go back through and read all of your slides, make sure I don't miss something, but is there anything else on top of all this awesome, amazing stuff that you've shared with us that we should be looking out for as they turn into that, okay, now they're in charge of their own? Because I can no longer, shut them down with a click of the Wi-Fi, because now they have their data plan or their,
Right.
all that good stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's no magic bullet. I wish that we had something that we could do that would make people be responsible. But again, in the world as it stands, I have a hard time seeing adults being that way even. So the best thing that you can really do is just teach that openness and get those lines of communication as open as you can, and lean into it. If you find something bad, show the kids and say, man, look, I screwed up. This happened to me. What did I do? I closed the browser. I went back. I took care of it. I called, you called me, whatever. It's a holistic solution to a problem that just has fingers all over the place. And that's the only way you can do it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Wish I had a better answer. Sorry.
So Steve, what
That's
I
okay.
I
No.
was going to ask, I know there are apps out there, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, that can be used by students as repositories for inappropriate content, whether they be pictures. Chief Metzger talked earlier about we see between the middle school and high school, especially the sexting that's taking place, and some kids know that their parents will pick up their phones and check their phones from time to time, so they're not going to leave those photos in their camera roll. So there are some less than scrupulous apps out there, providers out there who create apps that look like, when you see the app on the phone, it looks like some kind of a childish game or something like that. But really, when you click on it, it leads you into, that's what you're seeing is just the front door. And when you click on that and open that door, what's inside of there are inappropriate images. We've seen this with some students, who had no idea. And they said, I check their phone all the time. I didn't see I've never seen inappropriate images on there. Well, they're hidden inside this app, which is created as a place to hide content you don't want an adult to see. So again, where there's a will, there's a way. And oftentimes there's so many options out there of apps that are being created to confuse or to conceal things from parents. So I don't know the names of any of those apps off the top of my head. I haven't had to deal with it yet, but I know they're out there.
You better be knocking on wood under that table. I mean, you're right. It's a yet. You're absolutely right. They're better at this than we are, is what it comes down to. And we have to try our best to stay ahead. And I mean, the we is in general. I mean, there are folks among us, of course, who are better at it than others. But for instance, you hear people talk of the dark web. The dark web is just websites that are not indexed by Google, and you have to know the right path to go to get there, to get to it. And there are even settings within, if you've used Chrome or any of the browsers within the last 5 to 8 years, you've got an incognito mode on those browsers, which allows you to say, don't track me, don't follow me, don't put me in the history. Wherever I go now, leave that private. And it's for the sake of people who want to do things that may not be bad, but they just don't trust being followed. So you're right. They're using these things for the purposes of bad. There's a browser called the Onion Router, Tor browser, you'll hear it called. And the entire purpose of the browser is to scramble your traffic through multiple different locations before it goes to the place you want to go. If you were to look up, how do I get onto the dark web? If you were to Google that, it'll say download Tor, download the Onion Router. And that's one of those entry points. One of the sites that you meant that contains that information, it doesn't ask any questions, is called Pastebin. That is, and the reason that I'm familiar with that is that's also the place where criminals go when they want to dump all of the passwords that they have stolen into a text file. They put it on Pastebin and sell people access to it. So yeah, it's and even if I knew the names of more specific apps, they come and go so rapidly, and it's just it's a forever game to chase.
Yeah.
Anyone else have it?
So parents, again, any questions, or if you parents, if you came this evening and joined us hoping to hear about something that we didn't touch on, whether it be from the police or security side of things or from the cybersecurity side of things, feel free to ask them now. If we haven't touched on a topic that you're hoping us we touch on, we're open to going and answering any questions you have. So if not, we'll move on. Okay.
And I'll just volunteer out there if you don't mind. On the last, oh, it's not on there. My website's on there, but my email address will be in here. Reach out to me if you have a question. You're embarrassed, you're afraid, whatever. Reach out to me. Anyone is. I'm again member of the community. I want to make sure that folks are getting what they need.
And he really does mean that. He's Steve's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Kara, thanks for bringing this speaker to us.
Thank you, Steve, and I want to thank. I want to thank John Metzger as well for his time tonight and taking away from some personal time to join us. We appreciate it, Steve and John.
Very much.
Thanks for having me.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Yeah. That's all we have for this evening, guys. Again, just a reminder, if you're interested and willing to help with the book fair, just ping me, and it's a minimal effort, but I think if we can have, maybe 4 or 5 people, it'd probably just be an hour or 2 here and there, as opposed to, one of us having to do many, many hours. So that would be very helpful. Our next meeting is first Thursday of next month. We'll try to get an agenda out and the announcement a little earlier this time. Apologies for the late notice this month, but hope you guys all had a wonderful holiday, and really appreciate you for tuning in tonight. We'll get these materials up on the website. We'll get them to Kara when they're finalized, and she can put them up on the website for us. And I don't know, Corbin, if it's worthwhile, maybe we could send a note out to the parents. It's such an important topic. Just to let them know, and maybe put the link to the website there in case is this sort of an advert for folks to know it's up there and they can go and look at it.
Yeah, we can do that. If I would also recommend, Catherine, if we have the dates and times that we're looking for folks to volunteer for the book fair.
Yeah.
And maybe we create a sign up genius and get that out there.
Yep.
With 2-hour blocks, or however long we're going to ask people to work to register for.
That'd be great.
Sooner than later. We don't want to send that out, first weekend of February, and the following week's the book fair. So.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Thank you for that. Just a reminder, we do have to have your clearances to come to this event, because we'll be on campus during the school day. But certainly sign up Genus, and we'll put that note on there, and that'd be a great idea. So we'll get that out probably next week. I just need to touch base with Christine and see what the LA slots were.
Yep.
So nothing else from me. If anyone else doesn't have anything, then I just make a Kara.
Hey, Corbin, real quick while I have you here. The last link to the Zoom meeting that I posted, it was there, and now all of a sudden the video is not available anymore. And I know this comes from kind of somewhere else nowadays. So I don't know what's going on, because I went back and double checked it all today, and it says the video is no longer available. So just kind of, I don't know. I even went back to your original email.
I'll talk
and kind of like reposted it, and it still won't go up. So
Kara, it depends, Corbin, if you're recording to Zoom, it will run out of storage and overwrite stuff. I know because I've had some important Zooms, and I've actually downloaded them and put them up on my YouTube, just so I could keep it
Good to know.
Yeah.
Maybe we should start doing that.
Okay, yeah, I'll take a closer look and see if I can notice anything. Thank you.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
especially
and
for
we-
this one. I'll make sure I do it.
And we do have our PTA YouTube channel,
Oh, great. Okay, I'll reach out to you then for that login.
because we could do that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay,
Good stuff.
well,
All right,
thank
if there
you.
isn't anything else, and I just thank everybody for coming in tonight, and we'll let you have the rest of your evening
Yeah.
to go and check your cyberware and stuff.
Yeah.
Patch everything, patch everything.
Thanks so much, guys.
Okay,
Good
thanks,
night.
everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.